A Village Singer is a short story written by American author Mary E. Wilkins Freeman in 1889. The central character is Candace Whitcomb, an aging soprano who has been replaced in her New England village's choir by Alma Way, the lover of her nephew. The story was first published in Harper's New Monthly magazine in July 1889. It opens with the sound of the wind rustling through the forest near the village, a sound that reaches the meeting house where the entire village has gathered for the Sunday service. This is the first time Alma Way is leading the choir, a position that has been taken from Candace due to the general belief that her voice is failing with age. Alma, who is nervous, faces her self-doubt with determination, comparing it to the daunting peak of a mountain. However, when she begins to sing, she does so beautifully, earning the approval of the congregation. Through the open window of the church comes another voice, Candace's, singing to a different hymn and tune from her parlor organ in her cottage, which is located near the church. Alma struggles to continue her performance, distressed by the competing voice, and the congregation sympathizes with her. One woman even offers her a peppermint to calm her nerves. Later, Alma has another solo, but Candace's voice once again rings out from her cottage, trying to overshadow Alma's. After the service, the village rallies to comfort Alma, including William Emmons, an elderly tenor who once had a romantic connection to Candace. The minister, Mr. Pollard, apologizes to Alma and promises to speak with Candace. Alma's lover, Wilson Ford, who is Candace's nephew, is enraged by his aunt's behavior and threatens to destroy her parlor organ. However, Alma reassures him that Mr. Pollard will handle the matter. Wilson is particularly upset because Candace had been given a surprise party and a photograph album by the choir as a gesture of appreciation. He takes Alma to his mother's house, and the narrator then explains that although Wilson and Alma have been together for 10 years, they cannot marry because Wilson refuses to have Alma live with his difficult mother, Mrs. Ford. Though Alma would prefer living with Mrs. Ford rather than remain single, she fears she is losing her beauty, a change Wilson does not acknowledge. The perspective then shifts to Mr. Pollard, who arrives at Candace's house to address the situation. Candace does not invite Mr. Pollard in, but he forces his way through the door. He explains that her singing had been clearly heard in the meeting house, and he tries to convince her that she must not have realized it. To his shock, Candace openly admits that she deliberately disrupted Alma's performance. She then expresses her grievances at length, insisting that she doesn't believe her voice is fading. Even if it is, she finds it unchristian for the villagers to have dismissed her after so many years of loyal service. She asks Mr. Pollard how he would feel if he were replaced by a younger preacher and points out that William Emmons, who is older than she, is still allowed to sing. She shows him the photograph album that the choir gave her, using it as a footstool. Candace explains how the choir tricked her, first by throwing her a surprise party, something no one had ever done for her, and then by leaving the album, which contained a note notifying her that she had been replaced. Mr. Pollard, believing that Candace is losing her grip on reality, invites her to pray with him. She refuses. The narrator observes that Candace had always been deeply respectful of clergymen, but a New England nature has a floodgate, and the power which it releases is an accumulation. Candace declares she will continue to sing during Alma's solos, and that evening she does just that. After the service, Wilson storms into Candace's house, furious, and threatens to destroy her organ. In response, Candace disinherits him. That night, as she prepares for bed, she notices a forest fire raging in the trees nearby. The next morning, Candace feels unwell and immediately recognizes that she is dying. She sends for Mrs. Ford, who comes to care for her. From her deathbed, Candace asks Mrs. Ford to dust off the photograph album and apologizes to Mr. Pollard. Finally, she requests to see Wilson and Alma. Candace tells Wilson that she is leaving him her house so that he can marry Alma. She asks Alma to sing "Jesus, Lover of My Soul," and Alma, deeply moved, sings beautifully. Candace listens quietly, her face radiant with a holy expression. When Alma finishes, Candace speaks, and it is as if she were seeing the image of a forest tree transformed by fire just before it falls. "You flattered a little on, soul," Candace says softly. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did, and be sure to subscribe. Thank you.